told her a problem. She says, you know, I always heard that shepherds can't drive sheep, they have to lead sheep. And the guy said, well, that's true, but I'm not the shepherd, I'm the butcher. So I guess there is truth to that. And if we don't allow our shepherd to guide us, it'll lead to disaster. There was a man who was on a large sheep ranch out in the west, had over 3,000 sheep on it, and he was visiting some friends, and they were out on horseback one day, and the day before, or a couple of days earlier, they had a big drive where they gathered them all up and brought them back up close to the main ranch. And they had just got off the ranch, they turned up a little canyon, and they came upon 3 wild sheep. He said these sheep were wild, their eyes were wild, they were running, they were scared, they just ran off into the brush. And the guy turned to, you know, the cowboy and he said, you know, that really surprised me. I wouldn't think you'd have wild sheep that close to the ranch. You know, he says, well, it all means what you call wild sheep. He says, those are sheep that we missed 3 days ago in the roundup. And being 3 days without the shepherd has driven them crazy. We will lose our sense of direction if we lose the shepherd. If we get out away from the flock and don't let him guide us and direct us, not only do we have to worry about the wolves of the world, we're going to have to worry about what it does to us. I have one final thought I want to share about being lost before I close. And I mentioned it earlier. Another way to use the term lost is that of a lost soul. And I've already been talking about that, I know, in the first 2 points, but I want to drive that home as I close today. You know, last year, 2012 would have been the 100th anniversary of the loss of the Titanic. I keep telling Brendan when we go over, over at Branson, they have this big Titanic exhibit, and we keep saying we're going to go, and we've never made it in there yet. There's too many things to do, and you can't afford to do all of them. But when the Titanic went down, the White Star Line was the one that owned the boat, and it came out of Liverpool. And it's very interesting, most of the people were lost. There were hundreds who were saved, but over 1,000 were lost. And it didn't matter, of course, at that time if you were rich or poor or whatever. And outside the Liverpool White Star Line, they just put a big billboard up, and on this billboard it was listed two categories: saved and lost. Saved and lost. And I want to tell you something, folks. When God looks down upon all of us, He only sees 2 categories: saved or lost. When He looks down upon our congregation or any congregation in Caney or in the state of Kansas, He didn't look down and He said, all right, here's the church members, here's the good people, here's the baptized people, here's the rich people, here's the poor people, here's the religious people, here's the moral people. There's only 2 categories: saved and lost. And I said it before, and I really mean it with all of my heart. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter where we came from. It doesn't matter what our background is. It doesn't matter how long we've been in the church, 1 week or our whole life. But it comes right down to it. Nothing matters except, are we saved or are we lost? It doesn't matter who we are or what we have. I love history. If I hadn't got called in the ministry, I might just wind up being a history teacher. I don't know. Of course, in preaching and teaching the Bible, I can deal with history, so I guess I get the best of all worlds. But one part of history that was very interesting to me when I studied world history was the Holy Roman Empire and the great emperor Charlemagne, who was the first great emperor of that empire. When he died, I read an interesting story about him. He was entombed in Chapelle, France. He still is, I believe. And when he was buried, he wasn't put in a casket. Instead, he was sat on a marble throne. He had his imperial robes on. In his left hand, he had his scepter. On his head, he had a jeweled crown. And by his own choice, he had his right hand on a Bible.